comparing iMovie export times on Macs, iPads and iPhones right after this. It's no secret that Apple's products make content creation a much easier task right out of the box than Windows, Linux, Android or other operating systems. So when it comes to using an Apple product, iMovie is for many the video editing software of choice, and there's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, there's so much that's right. It's free, it's easy to use, it works well even on low-end computers and devices, it's fast, but how fast is it really? This is what I'll be showing you with this video. I will also throw in a comparison to Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve and Final Cut Pro X. Now before I just nosedive into this, let me also say that not everyone has the same needs when it comes to video editing. I have several YouTube channels, and while I need to do some heavy editing on one, moderate editing on another, on one of my channels I almost need to do zero editing. It all depends on the kind of the content you're putting out there. So for this reason I also use different editing programs. Currently I use Premiere Pro for real work, I use iMovie on this channel, and I use iMovie on the iPad for another project that I have out there. What are the differences? I really like the simplicity and straightforwardness of iMovie, so I continue to use it for all the fun stuff I do, like this video. What I tested is a 24 minutes long video made on an iPhone, which is something you might be having quite often when filming things for YouTube or when out with friends or at an event or whatever. I didn't want to add any editing to this clip as it might not come out exactly the same and this would interfere with the test results. But I did make two variants. One was the unedited clip and the other had a filter that's in every iMovie. It's a silent era filter, and if you're watching my channel you might know that this is the filter I use for the goofy stuff at the end of my videos. I use 1080p resolution with 30 frames per second, which is the optimum for YouTube, and if you want to use 4K, you're better off using other programs anyway. I tested devices that are accessible to me. An iPhone 6s, which represents a team of older iPhone models. An iPhone 10, which represents the newer ones. An iPad Air 2, which is to this day the thinnest iPad ever made and still my favorite, and it represents older iPads as you might have guessed. An iPad Pro 12.9 inch, which is a form factor I would recommend to many small YouTubers out there as it would give them mobility, speed, high quality audio and video, also ease of use for editing and so on. This is why results for this iPad are so important. I've also included an older MacBook Pro. For many out there, such MacBooks are still the daily drivers. Many of us simply didn't want to invest any money into buying a new laptop that wasn't significantly faster, had a dreaded butterfly keyboard, offered no upgradability, yet was so expensive. And then here's a Mac Mini which represents newer Apple machines, but unlike a new MacBook Pro, this is the computer I recommend to get if you're into video editing and getting into the Apple ecosystem. So to remind you again, I use exactly the same video on each one of those devices. As you can see, we got some interesting results. By far the fastest export times came from an iPad Pro. And this is so good to see because as a video editor you must have experience exporting your work, giving it one final look and then realizing you've made a tiny mistake that you can't overlook. You need to go to re-edit that part, export your video again and so on. So it's nice to know that iPad Pro can handle your work so fast and so well. This makes it an ideal entry-level video editing machine. Notice how strangely enough the time for a pure unfiltered video export is slower than when I had a silent era applied to it. I have no explanation for this, but if you do, let me know in the comment section. Next one in line is another surprise, iPhone 6s. That thing was fast. I still use this iPhone for many tasks, but not really for video editing. As you can see here, maybe I should consider editing on it as well. No, not really. The thing is, yes, iPhone 6s really did export these videos super quickly, but it also drained its battery and overheated. So much so that I was thinking if I did a full hour video on it, it would probably explode. So this is not something I would recommend doing. Moving on to the next device, we got an iPhone 10. And as you can see, it's actually slower than the iPhone 6s. This is also very strange to see. It didn't overheat though, it stayed pleasantly cool actually. So maybe that's the reason why it performed a bit slower. Still super fast though. In conclusion, iPhone 10 and with it iPhone 10s, 11 and 12 all are very good as standalone ultra-portable mobile video editing all-in-one solutions on a budget. Well, budget considering it's got camera, microphone and editing all in one package. I'm not saying you should use this on a pro level as such without any additional investments, but having said this, you can see why we have lots of pros using iPhones these days for big projects. Next we have an iPad Air 2. It's a decent machine. It would allow you to run something like a pet channel on it, but one thing where this setup is lacking is the camera. This iPad doesn't have such a great camera. Also, iPads in general are not mountable on those cheap smartphone tripods, so you will have to prop it up differently when filming things. And you know you won't be able to take your cupboard outside for a walk if you're vlogging with only an iPad. Now we move to the bigger machines running macOS. Mac Mini I tested this on has a 6-core Intel i5 at 3 GHz of speed, and it has more memory than any of the iOS devices, but it's still only 8 GB. I'm still waiting for the toolkit I ordered so I can upgrade the memory. What we see here is the Mac Mini is quite fast. Working on macOS for me is still much better and more comfortable than working on iPad and definitely iPhone. Exporting times are super fast and not lagging far behind iOS devices when filters were not used. Add a silent era filter to it and it slows down the export, but still it gives us a decent result. I am comfortable working with this machine, and as I mentioned before, exporting something, correcting an issue, then exporting the video again. It doesn't slow me down much or demotivate me to correct the mistakes. One thing about the Mac Mini, when you do anything video editing related on it, it does heat up. Surprisingly, it doesn't slow down much, so you can continuously work with this machine and it will run well. Just don't leave anything on top of it. The only thing that doesn't really surprise is how slow older MacBook Pros are. And that's even with an SSD and 16GB of RAM inside this machine. They still work well and you can edit your videos and do tons of work on these machines. They're definitely capable for so much more than just web browsing, but when it comes to exporting a video project, prepare to have some of your precious time being wasted. Also, MacBook Pros have a more limited space in their housing, so they heat up as fast as Mac Mini does. It really got its fans blasting at full speed. Unlike Mac Mini, I did notice it slowed down considerably on a repeated export. This is that no filter result you see in this graph. It's over an hour of my life that I will never get back. But wait, I have one more thing to show you. MacBooks, Mac Minis, iMacs and Mac Pros have the ability to run a fully professional video editing software. Stuff like Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve and Final Cut Pro X. At the time of making this video, this is not possible on iPads. So if you're looking at going this way down the road, Mac is the way to go. But how does this Pro software compare to an iMovie on the same machine? I've used the same video clip, of course without the filter added to it, as other software does not have it. So we start with the iMovie. The time exporting the 24-minute video clip was 8 minutes 43 seconds. If I was using Premiere Pro, which is my pro video editor at the moment, it would take longer to do the same. Much longer. But not too much. 11 minutes 35 seconds to be exact. It's okay actually, but definitely slower. If I was to use DaVinci Resolve, it would be done faster than with iMovie, and this is a nice surprise. But Final Cut Pro X is a definite champion. It's faster than anything else out there. If you're an Apple fanboy, this is very expected. Just don't forget, Final Pro X is not free. It also runs only on a Mac. Hopefully this video helps you to choose a device or a computer that will suit your needs and helps you not to throw away your money on a wrong investment. The results for ARM-based devices, iPhones and iPads can really highlight why I am so looking forward to seeing Macs switch over to ARM chips in the future. If this happens for real, within a year or two we might have such a speed boost, it's really amazing. Like this video and subscribe to this channel. You know it's the right thing to do.